Hello, you're listening to the Behind the Fic podcast, a podcast that features fic writers and, of course, their fics that they've written. My name is Fate, and my co-host today is Kip. And who is our guest today?
Hi guys, you can call me Mimi or Pan, and I'm going to be talking about my fic, Guardian of the Wilds, today, which was originally inspired by a Tumblr post and immediately spiraled out of control as soon as I started writing it.
As all the best ones do.
It was a one-shot. It was supposed to be a one-shot.
That's how they all start. And then 1 year later, you got a 12 chapter over to 100k, 200k,
133k.
Yeah, 133k monster of a fic, but monster in a good way.
I'm proud of it. I am proud of it.
Yes, and that's why we're going to talk today about it.
Mm-hmm. Starts with the premise of Link, instead of being the regular old hero that we know and love, is actually a several thousand-year-old spirit of Hyrule. He's just kind of wandering around, and as the title suggests, he is a spirit of the wilds, and all that wander within them, which is a very wide domain. You get more detail if you actually read the fic. Little plug there. And where the story starts is things are starting to go wrong with the spirits. Link doesn't really know why, and he's not totally sure how he was spared either. He wasn't, but it's delayed. So he has to go out and figure out what's going on. And also trying to figure this out in the same time is Zelda. They meet up, and they decide to team up, and the story goes from there.
Yep. So, spoilers ahead, obviously.
Oh yeah, loads of spoilers.
So, read the fic, or else something bad will happen to you.
Kip's gonna hurt someone. We've never had a threat before in this podcast.
It's a happy little fic
at 3:15
full of many smiles.
PM in 1 week from now, if you have not read the fic, I will be in your home.
It's a happy fic, man. Smiles and hugs. Kittens.
Kip, the server gremlin, will climb in.
I'm kidding. There are, in fact, there's a lot of violence in this one because.
But it's got a great ending. I couldn't
stop myself.
It's not a bad ending. It's one of the.
Oh no! It has a happy ending. You're just gonna cry before you get there.
Yeah.
So trigger warning for gore and so on, fighting, some illness. I guess you could say a little bit of horror. There's a bit of body horror in there. I think that about covers it.
Yeah,
and the section I'm going to be reading is from chapter 9. So spoilers for the fic, obviously, but and there's a break partway through. I'll just let you know when the scene changes. At this point in the fic, for those unfamiliar, first of all, I'm not entirely sure why you're listening to a podcast about a fic you haven't read. Second of all, they're in Korok Forest at the moment. Link is unconscious for various reasons, and Zelda is currently trying to figure out what she's supposed to do about all of this. And also, again, major spoilers, she's the hero. So she's trying to figure out what that's about. And I guess that's about all I need to say. Start. And the hero bravely faced the evil king's phantom when the temple was through. With a ya and a ha, he struck down each fake until the real one finally faced him. Guess what happened next, Miss Hero? Zelda stifled a giggle at the Koroks' enterprising tableau, with sticks for swords and several Koroks stacked on top of each other to mimic the evil king's height. It was quite possibly the most enjoyable language practice she'd ever taken part in. Well, I don't know, she said with exaggerated confusion. What? The hero defeated the phantom, said the Korok at the bottom of the evil king's stack. And the great Soraya rose to power as a sage. I'm narrating. And the great Soraya rose to power as a sage. You should have just continued from there. I'm the narrator, Pep. I have a question, said Zelda hurriedly, hoping to break up the argument. Every Korok on the raised root that served as a stage turned to her, chittering curiously. Which one was Soraya again? She remembered, of course, but the Koroks weren't delving into her mind just then. They couldn't tell she was lying. One of our ancestors, of course, said Maka, whose spot on Zelda's shoulder was rapidly becoming a staple of their conversations. The greatest Kokiri ever. What about the hero of that era? Wondered the Korok in the middle of the evil king's stack. He was pretty great. He was Hylian, not Kokiri, said Pep, shaking the stack from his place at the bottom. Did you chase butterflies during grandfather's lessons again, Kula? Yes, that hero, said Zelda, interrupting yet another spat. What became of him? Here was a question she didn't know the answer to, and it certainly stopped the spat, though not the way Zelda intended. The Koraks trying to help her practice spirit talk all shifted awkwardly, flurries of unidentifiable emotions and concepts flying too fast for Zelda to catch. No one knows for sure, said Maka at last. Heroes, don't usually get nice endings after everything. They say he grew up on the outside but not on the inside, and the Lost Woods only recognized the outside. When the Lost Woods were on high alert, or simply older than roughly 15,000 years, as Zelda had learned, they didn't take kindly to wandering adults. Zelda swallowed as her mother's warning about living skeletons ran through her mind. They also say he really did grow up, said Pep, a hopeful undercurrent carrying his words. He had a life. That's the history we just told her, though, said Kula. He disappeared, too, in the history we came from. He failed, too, in another history, said Maka sadly. Hyrule's history twists up around heroes. Grandfather's lessons are kinda confusing sometimes. Zelda knew full well that the history of her homeland was about as straightforward as the average plate of noodles, but she had never considered that spirits might know more about the exact intricacies. It had also never occurred to her that the legacy of heroes was typically to disappear after their job was done, either to be called upon once more, or to die outside the eyes of history. It was sobering, knowing that was her burden now. Yeah, but you'll be okay, said Maka, reminding Zelda that her thought process and her speech were now essentially one and the same to those who paid attention, even though Maka hadn't been doing that a moment ago. The cycle's different. There's never been a hero like you. What, a young woman? Said Zelda, managing a tiny grin. Well, that too, said Maka with a jingling laugh. The hero isn't strictly a man mortal, said Pep helpfully. Mortals just like to put things in boxes. You're different since you're descended from the goddess. You have the hero's spirit, and you have the blood of a hero too, said Maka. The very first hero started Hylia's royal line, you know. And now you're here, the ultimate hero. I'm honored to witness you. I can't access my power from the goddess, though, said Zelda, tracing the back of her hand. There was a tiny bruise there from some scrape or another, and a stubborn bit of dirt, but no holy power. The Master Sword will be all the power you need, said Maka optimistically. Zelda didn't need to use spirit talk for her apprehension to get across, even though she didn't want the cheery Koraks to be as afraid for the future as she was. She would draw the sword, and she would use it to the best of her ability. No more hiding. But would she succeed? The Korok tower before her wobbled and fell apart, the participating Koraks giggling as they fell to the ground and scattered. Zelda was left with Maka on her shoulder, and only slight confusion as to what made them leave. There was an unmistakable presence approaching, and the Koraks considered him too stuffy to have story time with. I see your lessons are going well so far, said Satori conversationally. As always, his steps across the mossy floor of the Lost Woods rang like muffled cymbals through the faint mist his presence created. Zelda enjoyed the almost music that came with his magic. It was calming, more so than any of the meditation she'd ever done under the eyes of a goddess statue. They're certainly going, said Zelda with a slight grin and a shrug. How's Link? Satori made an echoey gonging noise that might have been laughter. It could also have been his equivalent to clearing his throat, but Zelda wasn't about to ask. Sleeping like a stone. She seems to be recovering, though her hair will make an insolent rat's nest when she's done. She? How can you tell there was a shift? You cannot? You were still practicing. All a part of the empathy of spirit talk, said Satori, elegantly stepping around and settling down into the moss before Zelda. A bloopy popped out of nowhere to sit on the root that had been a stage mere moments before, chattered something at Maka, and disappeared. He challenged me to play tag! Maka leapt from Zelda's shoulder and disappeared as well, leaving behind only echoes of his giggling. Energetic creatures, said Satori after a moment. Sometimes I wonder how I became their guardian. My bloopies love to play pranks just as much as Koraks. They just tend to do so to me. Zelda hurriedly stifled a giggle, but Satori knew she was laughing anyway. There was a downside to speaking with spirits on their own terms. I wouldn't know, she said lightly. I'm just a mortal. Goddess knows I don't understand half the obligations of a spirit. And few spirits would understand your concerns. You know, I was a mortal once. Zelda blinked, a little surprised that Satori treated it like a secret. I do know. Your origin is no mystery to the royal family. As such, I know precisely what impending death feels like, he continued, gracefully ignoring her interruption. I know what it feels like to have a finish line on one's life. The Deku Tree is a dear friend, but he does not truly understand the natural fear of death mortals are born with. In fact, none of my brethren do. They have loved and lost mortals in their own way, yes, but they do not understand what it is to die. Zelda said nothing, getting the sense Satori was having trouble admitting this. To draw that sword is to spell doom for these woods, he said. I hope and pray you will be successful, and that the influence of the Yiga will not last long enough to kill or irreparably harm any of us. But there is a chance. The hero always wins, but not necessarily as an individual. History has shown that one hero can fail and pass the exact same quest on to the next poor mortal of Hylia's choosing. How optimistic, said Zelda. I can't afford to lose here, though. I won't let it end like this. And that is precisely where my experience as a mortal is overshadowed by my experience as Lord of the Mountain. My life could easily be defined by its end, hero, for am I not greater than I was? Mortals do so love defining a story by how it ends. The thing is, I would never have become a spirit if it were not for the middle of my story. The end is defined by what comes before it. Oh, said Zelda simply. She didn't need to try and form words for Satori to understand how much she appreciated the advice. Now she understood where he'd been going, and why Link tended to refer to him as confusing. The best way to make sure you have a good ending, said Satori, is to set it up in the middle. Prepare while you have a chance. Everyone here will help you. You are not alone. Zelda swallowed a sudden lump in her throat, infinitely glad that she didn't have to speak aloud. Thank you. Of course. Here's the scene break, by the way. After the incident with Melania, the spirit was far from eager to meet more of her brethren. Satori had felt powerful, yes, but not so strong as to restrain her. No more sightseeing for a while. She'd do something else to gain power. Though, the hero had been interesting. She'd never gotten around to blessing him for being so devoted to a horse. No mortal could do what Melania had done, magic possibly sentient sword or no. For all her apprehension, the spirit was a curious soul, especially when it came to mortal affairs. Why not go see what the hero was up to? Talking to himself, as it turned out. And his horse. And his sword. The spirit couldn't help but wonder if the hero actually had friends or not. You'd think this would be a much simpler task. Just don't startle me when I'm busy, all right? The hero's dark eyes seemed to glimmer sharply like the edge of a cut diamond in the late afternoon light. His profile, outlined by the sun's last rays, was even sharper. Dying out the Zonai might have been, but the hero of their blood was no less imposing for it. If he hadn't been arguing with a glowing sword while sitting cross-legged like a mortal toddler, he would have been scarier. No, I knew it was there, he said sternly, holding up the scabbard and firmly jabbing his finger at the gemstone on the pommel. The spirit hovered idly over Charcoal the warhorse, running invisible fingers through his mane while the hero argued with a sword. A sword that chimed in response. There was definitely some type of soul in there, but whatever manner of soul it was, the spirit couldn't hear it. The sword's words were only for the hero. Why do you always state the obvious? I'm an adult, you know. I can handle myself. Nothing around a warrior is secret. I know my surroundings as intimately as the back of my hand, and I need no magic. Another chime. What? The hero stiffened and unknowingly looked directly at the spirit. Charcoal, are you making fun of me? Is there really a spirit on your back? At the spirit's prompting, though it took more time than usual, oddly enough, Charcoal whickered at the hero in a mock laugh. That's not an answer, my friend, said the hero, laying his sword down across his folded legs. What did the horse god call you? Spirit of the wilds? The sword chimed once more, though its words were hidden from the spirit again. She didn't care too much about that. What did the hero want? Who are you? She tried, broadcasting loudly at the sword. Nothing. Perhaps the sword only spoke that odd stilted dialect Satori had used. If so, the spirit would just ignore it. She had no way of learning that language yet, so there was no point. She says you're young, said the hero after the sword had chimed once more. I didn't know spirits could be young. Can you hear me? Said the spirit again to the sword. She can hear you. The hero almost made eye contact. Almost. What are you watching me for? Shouldn't Her Highness get all the spiritual attention? In lieu of response, the spirit decided to spend a little bit of her meager power and summoned her best apparition. And if her ghostly highly informed looked a little smug, lounging atop the hero's horse like a beachgoer in a sun chair, well, that was fine. Intended, even. She loved to make an entrance just as much as Melania did. To his credit, the hero didn't jump or flinch at the sudden, glowing, vaguely humanoid on his horse. Rather, he raised an eyebrow and propped his sword up in the dirt, angling the gemstone towards the spirit as if it were an eye. And perhaps it was. "Do you have an actual name, then?" asked the hero. The spirit shook her head. "Well, mine is Link. But I suspect you know that." She didn't, actually, but the spirit shrugged and pretended otherwise. Mortals seemed to think every spirit was all-knowing. Why ruin the illusion? "You didn't know that, did you?" said the hero after the sword chimed again. "You're a snitch," said the spirit instantly, sticking her tongue out at the sword. She forgot that the hero could see her, though, and his barking laugh shattered the silence. "You really are young," he said with wonder. Had it been condescension, the spirit might have just disappeared then and there. Instead, curiosity and awe were all that lived in the hero's eyes. Incredible. Born just in time to witness the end of the world, eh? The spirit tilted her head to one side curiously. She vaguely knew why the mortals were mobilizing like ants before a storm, and she'd heard plenty who prayed to any and every spirit listening to preserve them. But the hero of all mortals making a joke about failure? Odd. "What, you think I'm a mortal like you? I'm not," said the hero, a tiny laugh on his lips. It didn't seem genuine. "Far from it, in fact. What's coming is much bigger than me." The spirit wasn't sure what to say to that. But I'm being fatalistic again. "Can't fail, can I?" said the hero, patting the hilt of his sword. Once more, his grin was insincere. A mortal like this would benefit from peace of mind. "I did come here for a reason," said the spirit to Charcoal, idly patting the warhorse's side. "What do you think?" Charcoal made a contented nicker, giving his approval. The hero didn't move, while the spirit smoothly rolled off the horse's back and half walked, half hovered towards him, though he did cock a bushy brow in confusion. Evidently, the sword hadn't relayed the spirit's purpose just yet. Even when the spirit stopped before him and laid a blurry hand over his forehead, the hero did not move, except to bow his head and close his eyes, perhaps receiving the message. "I bless you. May luck follow you, may the wilds guide your heart, and may your weapons never fail when you need them," said the spirit, with both words and the indescribable not-speech of her own language. Charcoal stopped in the process of eating lunch. Nearby birds ceased singing and fluttered onto branches to watch. It seemed like the whole world was watching, but it was really just that tiny corner of Faron, and the spirit preferred it that way. Perhaps the blessing would be effective, and perhaps it would simply serve as a placebo. The spirit was still working on such things, but even so, something told her the blessing was meant to happen somehow. Odd. "Tell him it's because he's so nice to his horse," she said to the sword. With that, the spirit raised one ghostly hand into the air and cleanly snapped her fingers, disappearing from mortal sight just as the hero looked up. Seeing him gasp and leap to his feet at her disappearance was absolutely hilarious to the spirit, who struggled not to accidentally let on about her presence as she giggled silently. How? The hero whipped around, blinking owlishly. Spirits. The spirit gave one last chuckle and started to leave. "You know, the sword knows you're still here." The hero got a parting rude gesture for that. Not that he saw it. That day was the beginning of, well, something. The spirit hadn't found a mortal she could properly talk with before then, or one who was so fascinating to follow around and mess with. She couldn't even speak the way he did, but the spirit within the sword didn't seem to mind translating, and the hero only cared about talking. No, Link. He has to be called by name. Enough people just call me a hero. Hero of what? I haven't vanquished anything yet. Link was a curious mortal, prone to oversharing, spoiling his horse rotten, and being so overly friendly that even the monsters driven mad by the oncoming evil seemed to stop for a moment before trying to kill him. They tried quite hard. But the spirit's blessing held. He enjoyed good food and good company, and somehow he made everyone feel like good company. His fellow defenders of Hyrule, the champions of the fantastic Shiga-made machines which thrummed with the energy of the land, counted as good company even in the spirit's eyes. She never showed herself to them. It was too fun watching the sharp-eyed Rito completely miss her presence, but they were fascinating to follow around. And mess with, of course. Line here, shade. Aha! Link proudly brandished his piece of parchment in his fellow champion's face. Liaban, a Gerudo warrior whose young age belied her true strength, squinted at the sketchy drawing. Your spirit friend is a blob with teeth? Are you sure you haven't befriended some new breed of choo-choo? What? No! Insulted, Link snatched his parchment back and rather dramatically cast his quill into the grass. The spirit caught a glimpse of the attempted portrait from her spot in an overhanging branch and snorted. It really did look like a choo-choo. Well, I still haven't seen the spirit of the wilds, so I suppose I'll picture her as a choo-choo now, said Leoban with a wry grin, snatching an apple slice from Link's half of the picnic basket as she did. When did Zelda say she'd be done praying? Depends, really, said Link thoughtfully, letting the apple theft slide. The grassy knoll above the Temple of Time had a lovely view of the marketplace in the square where worshippers bustled about, but the princess had entered the actual temple and was out of sight. You know how she's been lately. Alia seems to constantly be busy. I don't suppose that spirit friend of yours knows how to contact the goddess reliably, said Leoban. They're all connected, right? Good question. Do you? Said Link, turning around to talk to the spirit. He could always see her nowadays. The sword had gotten tired of the spirit's disappearing act and done something. The spirit didn't recognize the spell. Regardless of the cause, Link's eyes still met hers perfectly, and she regretted not having a good answer. Maybe, she said, clumsily using the sign language that had been the sword suggestion originally. Not now. As I am. Have not learned. Link sighed heavily. That's all right, my friend. You can't do everything for us poor mortals, after all. Well, no, said Leoban with a shrug. Lean on magic too much and it might evaporate. Lean on your friends and we'll win. The plan might not be foolproof, but, well, even I think it's a bit of overkill. You have a good chance regardless. Interesting, really, that there was even doubt. Wasn't that sword meant to solve every problem related to the goddess and hero? Of course, said Link. The spirit couldn't help but wonder if Leoban caught the uncertain way he traced his sword's sheath, or the slightest pulse from its handle. Probably not. For all his charms, Link was good at hiding things. And that's the section. That was a lot longer than I thought it would be, my bad.
All right, it was great.
That's great. Yeah, you added a lot of character to like. I don't know how you read. I don't know how to describe it, but it was very good. You should read audiobooks for a living. You'd make a lot of money. You have a good
You have like a good audiobook voice.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
If college ever gives me time.
Oh no.
That is the question of all time, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Don't go to college, it's a trap.
Well, too late.
A bit late for me now, yeah.
I've already graduated.
Oof.
There's some younger ones. There are some younger ones in the server. You can talk to them.
Convince them not to get an education. That'll work out.
Tell them not to go to college.
That'll go fine.
I think Bella is still in high school.
Oh, yeah.
Ace isn't.
All right.
Okay.
So now that that's been read, questions.
Anyway, questions.
Question time, indeed.
Ooh,
so,
seriously,
you want to start off?
Okay. Anyway, yeah. College education is a good thing.
Just to be clear, I was kidding.
just to clarify for the members of the
mental
audience,
health
I was kidding.
Is more important than education, but like if you can get an education, like that's a good thing. We are supporters of education. It's half the reason I do this podcast is so that you can learn more about English and writing, and it's completely free.
Yes, and do not sue us because we.
I don't know where that came from. Yeah, don't. We have no money.
If you don't go to college and your life ends up, that's not our fault. Don't sue us. We won't have money because again, college.
If you sue us, know that we have no money to give you. So you'll win, but you won't get anything out of it. So
yeah,
we're getting off track.
Yeah, I know. Okay, my first question.
Yes.
Your fic is similar to Spicy's in that you were able to take on an already established world and make it uniquely your own with fantastic world building, which is amazing. What was your process for this, and how did you decide what elements to and not to include from Breath of the Wild?
Oh boy, that's a hard one. Well, first of all, obviously I had to cut out Link's role and turn it into something else. Because I love Canon Link, but he's definitely not like Spirit Link is here. Mm-hmm. Their personalities are close, but their roles are completely different. And I had to think about what would it be like if the Link that we know never existed at all. Zelda originally wasn't supposed to be the hero. There wasn't really a hero at all until I started thinking about why we needed the Master Sword. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I can just do that for Zelda.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the main things of Breath of the Wild, the driving force is the calamity and digging up the divine beast. But obviously, there's no divine beast in the main storyline of Guardian of the Wilds. They're mentioned in the flashback, and that's it. And deciding to cut them out helped raise the stakes a little bit.
Right. Because
clearly they're like, well, we're fine. We have giant laser horse.
When you don't have giant laser mecha beasts, things do get a bit more dangerous, to say the least, on your part.
Plus, as much as I love the champions, the fic is about Link and Zelda. Originally just Link, and then Zelda kind of took over, and I was like, well, I guess this is her fic now. Sorry, Rivali. He still elbowed his way in, though. I didn't intend to give Rivali as big of a role as that. He just happened.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have too much Bird Boy.
A lot of the Sheikah world building I did change. Impa's role. Age of Calamity came out after I started writing this fic, and I was like, oh, well, I'm keeping Impa as she is. But yeah, I had to change some stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
I think. And then, of course, there's like the base world building of just how the spirits work.
Right.
We're not given much confirmation for like why the great fairies are there, or the Deku Tree, or anything like that. And Satori was really, really fascinating, and I wanted to write about him a lot. As you can tell from the fact that he's one of the main spirit characters.
Exactly, right? You basically have to make it all from scratch, right? Because
yeah, that was one of the best parts. Like, you don't see any of this in Canon Satori. All Canon Satori does is make funny noises and run away.
Yeah. It's
certainly
more interesting in this than in Breath of the Wild, where he just kind of appears every now and then on the top of the mountain.
Yeah, a lot of the world building was just giving personalities to characters and to spirits that we don't see as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Melania was especially fun.
Oh, yeah. I honestly liked all your like interpretations of the fairies, because in the game, they were kind of like just, what do you call it? They're just kind of like devices, honestly. They have like their one like throwaway little thing where like they think Link is hot and then they give you the thing. But now, like in your story, you have the chance to like flush them out and be like, oh, their powers are like they get it from like their rupees, and then they're sieged upon by the thorns and like all that. So like it's more interesting like overall when you just take like the essentials from Breath of the Wild and like flesh them out. So I think that's great in your world building, which is
thank you.
Yeah.
I wish I could have included more about the fairies, because I do have things that I thought about for them, but the fact that most of the fic is just between Link and Zelda, and Link is afraid of them and won't stand within 30 yards of them under normal circumstances, I couldn't really talk about them much. Yeah, that first encounter with Melania left a bad taste in the poor kid's mouth.
Oh, God. Well, I think this.
For those unaware, Melania stuck Link to the side of a rock, and he couldn't move, and he's very, very afraid of that. So,
right, like at this point, if you haven't read the fic, we're just gonna talk about things, and it's gonna sound like there's no context for it at all. So just go read the thing and improve the experience for yourself. Segues are nice. So my next question then, is kind of flows nicely with what we're discussing already. So in Guardians of the Wild, your characters, both original characters and also canon characters, are unique in like their setup, like with your world building. Like if Link being a spirit wasn't enough of unique world building, but there's a lot of variation from like typical interpretations of them. Like when you look at other fics, like obviously you have like Zelda wielding the Master Sword and being more like proactive and stuff. So, and also like your more original characters like Satori, or like your inclusion of Impa and Purah's mom. Sorry, I'm talking a lot for something that's supposed to be a question. But can you explain your so what specific parts in the story made you change the typical interpretation of the canon characters, and what made you like put completely original characters into it? Like focusing on the characters.
Like original characters, because that's actually a shorter explanation, because there's just Nikala and then maybe a couple of the other unnamed Yiga. For Nikala, I realized we didn't know who the Sheikah matriarch was before Impa. You only run into Impa in Breath of the Wild.
Right.
She's hanging out.
And very old.
And very old.
Yeah, and very old, yeah.
She shrunk. I was like, oh god, she's tiny! No. And I also needed a character who wasn't bad, but just kind of sucks, you know? A lot of people, I got so much feedback that fully expected Nicole to turn out to be a traitor, that she would be a Yiga, that she would try to kill them, and I was like, guys, she's just a bad mom. Like, I get it, we all hate bad parents in this house, but she's just kind of a terrible person. She's not evil. She just sucks. And she's so devoted to her duty that she ignores everything else, which is what makes her a sucky person. And I just kind of wanted to look at that through the lens of Impa, too, because she's also canonically very devoted to her duty. And then there's Pyrrha, the bisexual disaster of the family. God love her. Oh man, adding Pyrrha's lore was so fun.
Yeah.
But I really just needed a powerful Sheikah character who wasn't Impa or Pyrrha, because we both know that they weren't any kind of leader during this pre-Calamity era. And I was like, okay, well, I guess they have an awful mom now. Fate said no swears. I'm trying.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, but nothing spices up a story like a terrible parental figure, you know? Okay.
Yeah. Same thing for Rome, I guess, which is a nice segue. So for building the characters, Zelda, she's already very proactive in Breath of the Wild. It's just that she doesn't have as much freedom to show it. Right. And she's also on a much tighter schedule.
Yeah.
Because there was no one said the calamity's coming. Things just started happening to the spirits. Because there was a different inciting incident, Zelda now has a chance to go out and be a diplomat. And because of her distance from the castle, she was able to show her proactiveness more. So that was more extrapolation, I guess, than anything else. I will say, though, I added details to her backstory that definitely aren't there in Breath of the Wild. Like, Impa taught her how to fight. She knows how to swing a sword and stuff. I didn't really want to waste time with, oh gosh, like a training montage. Oh. The training montage she gets is learning spirit talk. Because what's most important about this fic is communication. So I just kind of said, oh, she knows how to use a sword. It's fine. She's also learning from the literal spirit of wandering warriors, so she's got an edge.
Yeah. Bisexuals have no complaints.
Oh, no complaints at all about the bisexual haircut she gets either, huh?
Yeah, no complaints, just compliments.
So with Zelda, it really was just extrapolating. Actually, that's my process for when I need to develop canon characters more. Like, I look at what we get, and then I say, okay, well, what if I put them over here? What would they do now? Like with Rome, canonically, he will go to a lot of lengths to preserve his kingdom. Because, we had that tidbit about forcing Zelda to pray from a very, very young age. Urbosa mentions that she passed out in freezing waters at some point. Like, oh my god.
Yeah,
what kind of father?
What the hell? Like,
Nintendo was like, here's this horrifying detail. Let's move on.
Classic Nintendo. It's a kid's game, and then every now and then they're like, hey, hypothermia and death. Woo. Okay.
Hey, and she was like 10.
Yeah.
Jesus. My brother is older than that. Oh my god, I can't imagine. Anyways. So, I know that he would go to a lot of lengths, and if he thought he was doing the right thing for his kingdom, then he wouldn't question himself until it was too late. Like we saw in Age of Calamity that, I'm using heavy air quotes here, apology he gave Zelda. He is capable of feeling bad about it, and he is capable of apologizing. It's just that he needs to know that he thinks he's done his duty here. He thinks he's fulfilled his, kingly responsibilities or whoever. So that's what I did. I gotta say, though, the lead up to Zelda punching him in the face, that was fantastic. So good to write. You guys have no idea how much fun
a little bit as a treat,
Yeah, so in adding that detail about him not actually having his personality changed by the Yiga, that was important. Because I hate it when there's this cop-out like, oh, well, they were being mind-controlled. It wasn't their fault. He was very much being manipulated. He was not being controlled. That was him. Fi calling him out was also very satisfying, right?
Yes.
If Fi was more vulgar, she would have.
It's gonna sound weird, but I felt your satisfaction in that. Like I felt, I just kind of read it and I was like, "Ooh, that seems like she had a fun time writing that one."
It's like your happiness kind of bled through, in the writing.
I did have a lot of fun. Hold on a second. Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
It's all right. It's a
Zelda
podcast,
are like
you know.
You're the
Right?
guest.
You're the star today.
I meant having to clear my throat.
So,
well,
that's also
hey.
valid.
Then there's like, Impa and Pura. I had to extrapolate quite a bit for them because we don't get as much characterization details beyond the fact that Pura is absolutely fabulous and I love her. Don't we all?
Don't we all?
Don't we all? Just adding in that little backstory about how Pura's the rebellious sibling, Impa isn't, which is kind of an unusual dynamic. If you consider, like, what is it? Pura's actually older? Yeah. Pura's older.
Yeah. She's the older one, yeah.
As an older sibling, I stuck some energy into that one. I was like, okay, I know how to write this one. So, just thinking, well, why did Pura end up as a royal researcher when, like, that's exactly what the Sheikah were oppressed for way back when. And I was like, yes, rebellious. So I just did that. And then Impa got to snap, which, good for her.
Yes.
Good for her. Good for all
for
the
her.
women in Guardians of the Wild that just snap. Good for all of them.
Yes.
You know what? They're allowed to snap. And
As
you're
a
doing
treat.
it again. You're doing it again, Guardian of the Wilds.
Guardians of the yeah, I keep doing God. Sorry. I don't know why.
No, it's easy. I do it in my head sometimes.
All right. Well,
Ready for
I
another
think
question? I think it's mine.
yeah,
Or
I
no.
think we
Yeah, I think
sufficiently
I'm-
covered that question. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I had to do stuff for like the champions too, but it's Settler.
Yeah. Okay. The Spirit of the Wilds, who goes by Link, has this otherworldly knowledge to him that turns the fish out of water trope on its head. Like at first, he's just kind of like, "What? I'm mortal now, but I'm not immortal." He's just kind of like, he's figuring things out at first. But he gets used to it and he goes on his own journey. How do you think being in a mortal body has changed their perspective on mortals? And what new understandings does he gain beyond his spirit-derived wisdom?
Ooh, this is a good one. So first of all, you know how it feels when you suddenly take a nap in the middle of the day and then you wake up and all the lights are on and your mouth tastes like sand and you don't know what day it is anymore?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it felt for Link to just get booted into a mortal body without warning. Which is why he's like so confused at first and just kind of wandering around before, getting his feet under him and getting a lot more powerful.
Yeah.
Oh, this poor kid. I put him through the ringer. Just a little bit.
But I think it's interesting. I think Fate kind of mentioned it in like the beginning. It's the opposite of like a fish out of water thing. Like I know you said that like, oh, this poor kid, we just shoved him into like a mortal body. But I like that it's not necessarily the complete like focus of the fic in the beginning. Like he's still like pretty competent for like the majority of the fic, so that you get to focus on like the relationships and stuff, So I like that you didn't like give into that cliche too much, right?
Yeah, he has that like fight with the disguised Giga in the beginning where he, does kind of bite the dust, but the opponent comes in clutch, and he's fine after that because that was like splashing cold water on your face. It was like, oh, okay, that's how you do that in this body. And I'd say being in a mortal body definitely sticks him closer to most mortals. You'll notice that Link is one of the only spirits who wanders around without having to go back to some kind of domain. Like even Satori really should not be away from the mountain for that long, but it was an emergency. So we kind of had to hang out with the Deku Tree. But the Deku Tree can't move. He sends his Koroks around. The fairies can't move. They send their like little fairies around. And the dragons can move, but they don't deviate from their courses very often. It's only if something catches their eye and they decide, okay, I'm going to stay here for a few seconds. Like Nature does it a couple of times outside of the fic and other parts. And Dinral does it to scare Rivali that one time. That was such a fun scene. I love him, I swear. He's my favorite character. But I'm going to turn him into roast chicken.
No. I mean,
and that was on purpose. Link could do that before having a mortal body. It's just that they did it in a way that made them either invisible to mortals or just like, otherwise unnoticeable. But now with this body, they're a lot closer. Like they can eat food. They don't do it, but they can. And if you follow the side blog that I made about this, you know that they do eat food sometimes. But it depends on how they like it. Anyways, And, like, you know, traveling with Zelda, and there's also that bit where they're with Pure and Robbie waiting for Zelda to wake up from that coma, and they're like, this isn't how mortals act, right? That's not normal. Is this normal? What they don't know is they're talking to a couple of crazy people here, so no, that's not normal.
Right.
But they have kind of a skewed idea of how mortals act in their day-to-day lives when they're not in the wilds. Like, they know a lot about how adventurers act, how hunters act, how explorers act, just if you're going camping. They know about you. But, like, if it was, say, a baker in a big city, they wouldn't know anything. They're just like, okay, I guess you make the bread. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So being in a mortal body helps them realize, because now they can walk in more places. And as much as they don't like being in civilized areas, you'll see in the Hyrule Castle scenes or in the desert scenes, far from most plants, they're not happy about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
there was like a second half of the question. I know there was. Hold on.
Hmm?
Could you like repeat the question? I know there was a second half here.
Good thing I deleted it from my notes app.
Okay, never mind. We can move on.
Hold on, shush. I got this. Oh no. Oh no.
It was like, how does his perspective change, I think, in a
Okay,
mortal
perspective
body?
change.
It was like what?
Yeah, that's right. I did have
What
something to say for
wisdom
that.
does he gain?
Oh, what
Like
wisdom
beyond,
does he gain?
yeah, beyond like his like, because like he has his like otherworldly wisdom where it's like he basically has this knowledge of everything going on, but then what other knowledge does he gain aside from that? I think you answered that. So
Yeah, how mortals work, but also, this is going to sound really shallow, more ways to prank them.
yeah.
More ways to pay. Yeah.
Like, if you know, but the bone removing incident, they
right.
think that's so funny.
All right.
It wasn't
well,
funny to Impa. It was very funny to them.
Okay. Next question on the list.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Okay. This is one I'm excited about. So one of the fun, unique things about it is about your fic is like the dialogue, and more specifically, it's how you mix the use of italics, bold, and quotation marks to show different types of characters talking. So
Yep.
that's I know, like, I think you mentioned this before, like it's kind of goes with your theme of like understanding like the power and value of like communication and all that stuff. But so what specifically made you think that it was necessary to format Guardian of the Wilds this way with the different types of dialogue like that?
Okay, well, I am always, like, I format thoughts and nonverbal speech as idyllics, just by default. So that's how I started using it originally, when I figured the spirits wouldn't use just like regular Hylian or English, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. They would use their own language, because I love doing that. I love thinking, okay, how alien can I make this? Let's go. But I also wanted to give it a sense of like, this is definitely not a mortal you're speaking to. This is not something you understand totally. This is something completely alien. And they're talking to you in a way you understand, but only barely. It's mentioned kind of in a few spots of the fic, but spirit talk is not words. It is emotions, it is images. You know how you think. Like, there are people who think of complete sentences, and sometimes spirit talk comes through that way. And that's how it's interpreted for the page. But there's also people who don't think like that. Like, in their brains, it's just abstract. And that's spirit talk. So I wanted to kind of get the vibe of, like, they're not speaking normally here. And that's part of why Link uses sign language. I'm also a huge fan of, like, selectively mute Link, so that's why. But also so that they're constantly speaking in idyllics. And when, like, more powerful creatures like the dragons, or during Zelda's Blessing, you know, when something really super strong and old is talking, it's in bold. It's in bold because this is loud, this is beyond you, this is really unknowable. And you're just kind of translating it, but it hurts to translate.
Yeah. I love that you can like get that across in like a meta level, because you don't just like say like it's more than just like describing the scene. Oh, the thoughts that were coming in my head were like abstract or whatever, but like the reader can like actually like, I'm not sure if the word is visualized because it's still words, but like you can see like the bold and the italics change. So I like that it's like on a meta level, like getting that, what is words across, emotions across, you know? Like it's
I'm understanding
really
what
cool.
you're saying.
Yeah.
And also, fun fact, they're speaking in Hyrule. They're speaking on the mortal plane, which is why it's all in Italics and bold and stuff. But if we were to go into the Sacred Realm, like, you know, like where Satori travels and where the dragons go when they're done running around, mortal speech would be in Italics. And spirit talk would be in
so
regular
it'll be
text.
flipped around because of the world that they're in, basically, right?
I've written a few side pieces where that kind of happens. It's because spirit talk is designed for the Sacred Realm, which in Zelda has a lot of various representations. But I really like to focus on it in like Skyward Sword, where it's just this giant plain of endless sky. And it's kind of unknowable. You're like, whoa. You low-key feel like you're standing in heaven, you know, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's where the Master Sword ends up in a few games, and I just kind of wanted to capture that. Like, yeah, no, something, we heard about something from there here, it would sound really weird. But our speech would sound really, like, blunt up there.
All right. Very cool.
I love thinking about fantasy linguistics.
I know, you're really good at that. We're usually,
I know.
Me being quiet is just me being in awe of, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
okay,
and it flows. Oh, just like quick tidbit, it flows really well with the Link using sign language headcanon because I love that so much. Selectively mute Link, so I love that. Like it just like it fits together like a perfect puzzle piece. It's like, oh, language, spirit talk.
Like
Link is gonna talk like with his hands because that's normal. That's the It's like the logical. It has like it's slightly logical explanation because like he doesn't like interrupting the wilds, and also he doesn't like. She's like, you know, words.
Yeah, which is why that scream in that one chapter hit so hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And also, this, while I was writing this, I had a nice little giggle. But you know that fight with the disguised Yiga he has right at the beginning? And how Andy doesn't actually understand sign language? That was me trying to set the audience off that, like, oh, there's something wrong with this guy. Because everyone so far has understood Link perfectly fine. It's just this guy.
So slight foreshadowing there then, I see. All right. All right, Fate. I'll pass it off to you.
I for some reason I have a hard time like remembering if it's my turn or your turn. So you've always been smarter than me, but here we go.
Hold on now.
I don't mean to suggest that you should have. In fact, I actually like their platonic interactions in this fic. Do not talk. But what was your reasoning for not taking Link and Zelda to a romantic place? Like, did it cross your mind?
I'm on the aromantic spectrum.
Okay, there we go. That's it.
That's not the only reason. That's okay. That's not the only reason. I just like dropping that. First of all, it didn't really occur to me, or it kind of did, but I was like, meh, maybe later. You know,
maybe
the way I was writing it is like, they're in a crisis right now. They don't know if the world's ending or not.
I don't mean to suggest that you should have done it. It crossed my mind a couple of times as like someone who enjoys that ship. So, and I can read it. I don't need it to have that. Like, I don't want to like be like, you didn't do this, wagging my finger. But I just wanted to ask, like,
oh no,
did it cross your mind? And what was building that relationship like platonically? I guess. I don't know.
Also, just like, it's not that I don't like, you know, the ship or whatever. I do like it quite a bit. Just maybe in different iterations or whatever. It's like,
right.
I just thought for this, them being friends made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And like, just because they have a super deep bond does not mean they have to end up romantically involved. Also, Link is several thousand years old.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Just gonna mention that. Like, they're best friends, and after, you know, the events of the finale where Zelda's like, wait, I'm what? I'm a spirit, sorry? Link is like, oh, it's free baby sister.
Right,
Because they're finally not the baby of the spirits anymore, and you know they're going nuts with that. But like, I don't know, I just like
in Wind Waker, where Nico, I think it was Nico, there's finally a new lackey. Link is finally there, and he's like, oh, finally, I'm not at the bottom of the heap.
Link and Wind Waker is so funny, but yeah.
Gosh.
I just liked it better. Like, there's oh, wait, is there one? Arrow confusion. Yeah, okay, so, like, Urbosa and Zelda's mom, that's about the only romance that I actively included.
Hell yeah,
yeah, that's it.
And, I was like, oh my gosh, they were married. And they were roommates.
And they were roommates.
And they were roommates. for a little while, anyway. But like I included what was necessary for the plot, I guess. And Link and Zelda being romantically involved just wasn't plot necessary.
Right.
It actually would have made it
Mhm.
more complicated.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am so tired of writing romance in a lot of situations. Like I can. It's just that I have to put a lot more thought into it. It doesn't come naturally. So
Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah.
A couple
This
people did
fanfic
suggest
is
that to
for
me
you first
while
and
I was writing
foremost,
it.
right?
There was a suggestion that, Link of the Zonai, the hero 10,000 years ago, and our Spirit Link were a thing, which was like, excuse me? The passage that I showed them after they drew this conclusion was like the passage where, Hero Link meets Spirit Link and is like, oh wow, you're really young. So I have some questions. I have some questions about their thoughts. Anyway, but they were very devoted friends. It's just like, come on. You guys seriously? Yeah, long and short of it is, I'm sick of it, and I just thought it wasn't plot relevant.
Yeah, no, I get it. I like, again, I didn't want to ask it in a way to be like, why didn't you do
you're
this?
fine.
I just wanted to ask because it just occurred to me as not. It wasn't like I was reading and like, oh, she should have done it. This occurred to me and like, okay, this is. I mean, I guess I'm kind of in a bubble, but this is one of the few fics I've read recently where they aren't taken to that romantic place. So I think I just wanted to ask about that.
I think the word is like, it's like refreshing kind of. At least personally, I find it refreshing because like you don't see it a lot, and it's such a good. It's like a good.
You did their friendship really well. That was my point. You did it really well. I just wanted to ask.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I don't want. Okay, I'm fine. I'm gonna stop talking.
Okay.
It's fine. You didn't offend me.
It's okay. All right. Well, I got another question. I got like one more question, and then Fate, do you want to do thing, or I don't know how many you have? 4?
You have one more, and then I have one more, and then the Tumblr question.
Gotcha.
Unless your question is my question.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Right now, find out more. So, Mimi, what are some fun like details or bits of lore in Guardian of the Wilds that you think deserves more attention, or maybe you didn't get a chance to like flesh it out as much as you wanted to in your 12 chapters?
Oh, I have a lot.
Well, let's get to it.
I'll just pick a few because otherwise we're going to be here all night. There's a lot of stuff about Link of the Zonai, who I guess I'll just call 10K for the sake of no confusion.
Having
his princess.
Okay, that took me way too long. I got it 10,000 years ago. I got it. Like, keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, 10K for 10,000 years ago. For clarification in the audience.
Keep going.
Oh yeah, I should have clarified that. Anyway, mostly like stuff like how they met, which is good old 10K was near the Lost Woods for a market type thing. Like his family took him to because I think there are a lot of traders around, so they take goods up. Hyrule was a lot more well traveled back then. And the princess was also there, helping to oversee things, because now she's learning how to be a princess. 10K wandered into the Lost Woods. Because what else are you going to do when you're a baby Link? And so did the princess. They met, and 10K was like, hey, you want to see the way my little leaf friend showed me? Princess was like, what little leaf friends? Because she didn't know about the Koroks. They go through, he finds the sword.
It's crazy.
Yep. But before that, they were also like wandering around the market together. Because you know how when you're little kids, you'll sometimes meet another little kid, your best friends for like 30 minutes, and then you never see each other again? It's like that.
Yeah.
Except they did see each other again. Mm-hmm. And I love, like, their friendship is genuinely so pure. It doesn't shine through a lot because I was only able to give them, like, one proper flashback where they're actually interacting? Yeah, and that was a very stressful one. I did them so dirty. Maybe one day I will write a prequel about them.
Maybe.
They really were, like, best friends. And 10K ended up, like, hanging around the Hyrulean court a lot, which is very, very stressful to his family because that's on the opposite end of the continent. From, like, where the Zonai were hanging out in Faron. And he grew up with, like, this reputation of being a little dense, didn't respond to social cues very well, but the actual answer to that is he knew exactly what was going on. He just had no idea how to respond. This mostly comes from one singular incident where a noblewoman was flirting with him, and he didn't know how to say no politely, so he just kind of waited for her to be done, smiled, and left, without saying a single word. Which, relatable. He was like, I don't know how to say no to you politely, so I'm just gonna go. Which, that's the only reason. He is a little bit of a... Yeah, he can be a little bit like that at times, but he's really smart. He's also, like, he likes Satori a lot, but he never really, like, talked to Satori, because, of course, no spirit talk from this guy. And with Fi, he was, like, really, really insistent on trying to become her friend. And she was like, I'm sorry, what? She didn't quite know how to handle that right away. But in the years after, you know, they were all geared up for Ganondorf, and then he just went poof. There was a lot of time for Temke to make friends. So he did.
Good for him. Good for him.
Mm-hmm. There's also some lore relating to, like, our Spirit Link. And, like, you know, what they were up to all the time. Some stuff with the dragons, like, when did I know I've, like, mentioned this before on some of my platforms, but they'd mentioned beating Pharaon once, and, that's because they decided to see where Farosh was going when they're done with, like, the whole circuit thing. Got stuck, ended up at the Sacred Realm, and Pharaon was like, what's that? What's that little bug thing?
What's that down there? The little guy.
Farosh, honey, what's that stuck to your horn? Link wasn't totally sure what to do with that, but it ended fine. So there's also some stuff about, like, you know, what the Sheikah have going on behind the scenes. It wasn't mentioned in the main fic, and I've definitely said it multiple times.
More like behind the fic.
Very funny.
But
okay, I walked into that.
I'm hilarious. Okay.
I walked into that one, I will admit. Not mentioned in the main fic, but Impa and Pura, after the Queen's death, and it came out that they had helped Zelda disobey orders and so on and so forth. The reason that they really, really don't like their mother, and why Pura is still salty about it to this day, is because they were both removed from the castle immediately, and Zelda, for a year of intensive training in isolation, which is part of why Impa no longer breaks rules as an adult until, you know, things boil over.
Yeah.
And also, Purat, in order to spite her mother, is pretending to be in a relationship with Robbie. They're not, but she's like, "Hey, do you want to take out my mom?" And Robbie was like, "Yes." Like, he's somewhat invested. He's really just here for the ride and to cause explosions. I didn't intend to have those two start blowing up Hyrule Castle. That was not in the original draft. They just kind of showed up.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't intend that? Because
No,
I feel like any
up.
way you slice it, whenever you include Pura and Robbie in something, something's gonna explode. Pretty sure that's like a God-given, you know, right?
See, they were
right
supposed to, like,
when you put them in a fic.
They were going to show up later, but they weren't going to show up then. Like, and Robbie wasn't even supposed to start, like, grab his ancient armor and just beat up the soldiers that were at the door. Like, he wasn't. I just kind of wrote him doing that, and I was like, wait a minute.
This is good. This is good. Keep going. You know.
And then he just kind of kept it because, you know, what else would he do in that situation? It's Robbie. It's Robbie. I've discovered that it's physically impossible to write either of those characters and not give them a gun of some kind. So yeah. And next thing I know, like, you know, when Impa's out scouting Hyrule Castle, I was like, and then she heard explosions, and I kind of realized, wait a minute, explosions from what? When did I decide this? And it was those two. I love those two.
And it was those two. That's how you end any question about explosions.
And it was those two. Shout out to Robbie's, like, electric brass knuckles that only showed up for a little bit. I love those. Shout out to Hippa for getting up, like, right after getting hit by them, though. A little bit of a plot hole, but you know what? Girl bosses are just like that.
They get to be like that. Because
she's built different.
Yeah, exactly. Took the words out of my mouth.
Let's just go ahead and say that realistically he forgot to charge them, but, you know. Such is life. Also, like, one more thing. You know how in Breath of the Wild you can put your horse into any stable and then pull it out at any other stable?
Right.
No matter how far away they are from each other. Right, and I know that's just a game mechanic, but I was like, what if? Hear me out. Melania did that. But also Link. That's like the one and only time they've ever worked together, and it was a joint blessing on every stable in Hyrule to be able to, like, safely house horses and then transport them. Only horses, I should know. Don't do this with regular mortals. Melania left a curse on it.
Okay.
If you try it. They were like, no. Only horses. I'm not letting the
Melania
dirty
just
little mortal
has
use
her
it.
room covered in like horse posters. She doesn't want any like humans in there. You know, it's horse guy hours. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one and only time Melania and Link ever worked together, and neither of them enjoyed it, but it turned out fine. Link was there for the sake of range.
Alrighty
Yeah,
then.
suppose that's all I got. Next question.
Okay. Which spirit is your favorite, and is there a spirit you didn't get the chance to include?
Ooh,
Oh, don't make me pick a favorite. Come on, you guys are so mean.
interesting.
I have the question.
Oh,
You gotta
no.
answer it.
You're so mean. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put Zelda in the mortal category for now, because that's what she is for most of the fic.
Okay.
Gosh, Link was so fun to write, but so was Satori. God. I'm gonna go with Link. Because
That's the wrong answer. If it's not,
whoa.
wrong.
Listen,
Don't disagree with our guest, Kip.
you can have your horse, Grandpa. Jeez, I just it's a very, very small margin. Okay. Link was just so fun to write and develop.
Yeah.
And originally the fic was supposed to be purely about him. And then Zelda kind of came in and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But just and the amount of comments I got to, because Link's gender fluid, and I didn't know I was trans yet. Well, the amount of people who read my comments oh, this is so nice, or I like the way you wrote them, it was very refreshing, or thank you, I feel seen, and I was like, oh, okay. That was a nice little boost of serotonin.
Yeah, gender.
Plus, they're just a little guy, just a little guy. I was like, hey, little guy, you want to go through mountains of pain? Okay.
Oh gosh. Please spare the little guy. Well, I mean, it's a little late for sparing the little guy, but yeah.
I will not spare the little guy. He's getting stabbed.
Oh gosh. By
And a spirit. What was that? Second half of the question?
Oh yeah, you had a spirit that.
If there's any spirits you didn't include.
Didn't include,
Yeah.
flat out. Well, no, I included all the spirits I could think of plus 5. So
Yeah.
I guess the answer is just no.
All right. Cool.
Well, we can use this small bit of allotted time to reaffirm the fact that the correct answer to your favorite spirit should have been Satori, because Horse Grandpa is the best
Just because you love
character
Horse Grandpa so much.
to ever.
I think Kip is one in charge of the thumbnail. I think we're gonna see a little bit of bias.
I told them which picture to use.
Well,
I told them what to take pictures of for that.
Yeah. Well, there may or may not be an emphasis on a spirit that is not maybe Link, maybe it could be one of the fairies, could be Zelda. I will not confirm or deny whether or not favoritism towards any certain spirit occurred. So yeah.
Well, let's look. It is a very small margin. Okay, Satori is one of the main symbols of this fic for a reason. Whenever I need to represent Guardian of the Wilds in general, it's not a picture of Link, it's Satori Mountain. Because that's where the story really starts, because that's Link's mentor. They definitely would not have been the spirit who they are if they hadn't met Satori first.
Yeah. Poor Horse Grandpa. God,
he's fine.
He's not fine. He's fine, but he's not fine.
Well, for a couple chapters of the fic, no, he's not. But
he's not fine.
Oh, writing that scene was good. Not so much for my readers.
Do we want to get into Tumblr's opinion on all this now?
Yes. Well, it's not the Tumblr's opinion.
Not opinion. I meant question. Yes.
Yeah.
Tumblr's insight.
The general Tumblr question that
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. What exactly? So this goes to all three of us, so we'll each answer individually. The question is, what are your favorite lines you've ever written and why? And for the sake of time, I'm going to cross out the why, and we're just going to say our favorite lines we've ever written. Maybe a little bit of why, but not too much why. So our guests can go first.
Hold on, let me find.
Yes. I've had mine ready since the beginning of the fic, so
this is unfair. Now I gotta think of
Okay,
maybe I should go first while you guys are looking.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I guess okay, fine. We'll do the why because I need to explain a little bit where this comes from. So this is from it's a tiny excerpt from A Moment Beyond, like my pride and joy. I love it so much. Anyway, and this is kind of one of those moments where I wrote this stuff. I mean, this isn't the full like. Even this entire chapter is like gold. I don't know where it came from, but I wrote this out, and I'm just like, what just happened? What poet came into my brain? What? Okay, anyway. So let's just say it. Oh, it might be long. Unlike nature, we yield varying results. It is because of our chaos that we have the opportunity at becoming something better with each step. Nature has not yet deemed us stagnant in our ways, predictable like the sun on a new day. Link furrowed his brow as he watched people start to emerge from the greenery, displacing leaves as they walked into their sights. We are indeed unnatural, Zelda finished. She saw them too. And that is our saving grace, that we aren't inherently fixed upon darkness and unmovable from that. Without our chaos, there would be no hope. I am screwed because I'm doing a reading. The last episode is a reading of me doing the first chapter of this, and I'm gonna do no good. That was so bad.
What?
But the writing's good, but my reading is. I need to practice before I do my fic. Anyway,
I sensed literally nothing wrong with your reading of that. So okay,
That was good.
I will practice my actual reading before. When is that? That's 2022. It's the last episode in the legendary chapter. I just tacked it on at the end. I'm like, you know what? I want to do one of my fics. So there we go. Okay. Did anyone find?
how about? Well, did you, Pan? Did you get anything?
I'm scanning. Hold on. I might.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll
Maybe
stop.
not but I do have my favorite line in Guardian of the Wilds.
Oh,
There you go. That works.
It's in somewhere. Hold on. No, wrong one. It's actually in the section that I just read, which is why I wanted to read it so bad.
ooh.
Let me find it. There we go. So it's when Satori is reassuring Zelda, like, hey, it's fine. You probably won't die at the end of all this. And that is precisely where my experience as a mortal is overshadowed by my experience as Lord of the Mountain. My life could easily be defined by its end, hero. For am I not greater than I was? I love that line so much. I don't know where it came from, but, like, it's really just the crux of the fic, isn't it? Because, everyone's so focused on destiny and how it's going to end. And then there's just like, no, slow down. Just think about how you're getting there. And the process is really what's important, because without Spirit Talk, Zelda would not have been able to resolve things the way she did, and the curse would have continued. The whole point of this is that, she could have won using the Master Sword, the way the heroes before her did, but the curse would have kept going. There would have been another iteration, and the whole point was to stop it entirely. So, it's kind of like the difference between the different Undertale endings, if you're familiar with them. Like, there's neutral, where technically, yes, you're fine, but no one else is. And then there's true pacifist, where everyone's fine, because you did it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
you can make it on the spot and be like, yeah, I wrote this.
yeah.
I mean, you did figure it out.
Yeah. Well, hard to follow up on both you guys, because I still don't know. All right, let me... Okay, I have brought up one of my fics. Wait, okay. Okay, so... Okay. Wait, no, I don't want to... Okay, sorry, I have so much anxiety, because, so it's kind of hard to, choose, a favorite line, or at least for me personally, because first you have, the context of, what fic you're pulling it from, but also you're, I don't even... It's... Half of the struggle is, liking your own writing half the time, right? So, okay, let me try... Okay, I have a line here for... this is from one of my, well, actually it's a work in progress, but it's a fic that it's the line that I really like for one of my revolving things. So it's about one of the Hylian OCs I have. So, and they're a thief. Okay. Anyway. The life of a thief revolves around stealing riches that no one wants you to have, of taking from the impenetrable and laughing at the arrogant, of grasping what isn't yours but what you decide that you deserve anyways. So thus I am a triumphant criminal, not just in glitter and gold. For every day I can steal a smile and pocket a chuckle, slip some wishes into my satchel, and every day in this cruel and horrible place I'll purloin some simple joy, whether from the foggy view of a window or the disruptive weather of the or the disruptive or the disrupt blah, 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 or the disruptive storm of the seas. Because the world does not want me to have this, but I take what isn't mine. So it's like, and yeah, that's.
Ooh.
So I just like, my favorite lines in general are like those from like characters that are like saying their little thing, but the subtext reveals like who they really are. So I like themes that are like, the world is a horrible place, but you should be good and nice anyway. So yeah, that's my favorite line.
Yeah, I can see that in that line. That's good.
Yeah,
That was
even
so
though
good
I
that I'm pretty
butchered
sure
it,
that
even though it's
our
my own
entire
line.
audience just like quit writing. Our entire audience just stopped and was
Can't
like, you
scan
know
it
what?
all away.
That's it,
Yeah.
including me. What fic is that? Is that they didn't post it?
It's not posted yet, but it's a work in progress for one of my Revolink things.
We're bug that. Okay. So the last thing before we wrap up is to Pan, and that's to ask, do you have any upcoming projects that you would like to talk about? This is your self-plug, self-promo.
Well, Guardian of the Wild's related ones. I do have a side blog, and you could find it if you go to my main. And which I wouldn't say it's over, but I will say maybe I will be updating it. What's there should be counted as canon, though. It's just a hassle with college and so on. And I might be writing some prequels in the future. You never know. Plus, there's definitely like a drabble or two I stuck in there. I can dig them up. But my own writing, well, there's a pinned post on my main, Shiny Togekiss, with all of my fics. Zelda-related stuff. Do I have anything? I do have a Zelda-related fic coming up. It's should drop in a couple of days, actually. Halloween.
Ooh.
And I will say, it's definitely a horror fic. It's a departure from what I usually write. But, you know, it's good, and in my opinion. And in the expert opinion of a couple of my mutuals. So, yeah.
So yeah,
And
follow Pan on everything. So,
yeah, I will be putting all this information down in the description, so you don't have to like pause the video and try to guess the spelling of the username. I will.
Oh, Lord.
It'll all
It's
be
just
in links.
Pokemon.
It'll be in links down, and cause I don't know Pokemon. I don't know anything. People say, "Oh yeah, it's this Pokemon." I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, that
Because
makes
like I
sense.
say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Nintendo fan," they're like, and they start talking Pokemon. I'm like, okay, I'm a Nintendo fan about everything but Pokemon, so stop.
Understandable.
Stop you right there.
Okay,
So anyway,
no.
yeah, so all those will be down there. Pan's information and my information and Kip's information, but honestly, the most important is Pan's information because me and Kip have been around here for a while.
exactly.
We're old news. We're boring.
No,
We've
come
been
on, you guys
around.
are fun.
With a
Okay.
special guest, so you got the special links in the description that you all should click down and see.
And other than that, I think we've said all there is to be said. Unless you guys think anything else you want to lasting remarks.
Pan and Fate are good writers. Follow them, or else I'd kill you.
Kip is too.
Kip is also a good writer. I don't write. What? Okay.
What?
Hold on.
Okay.
Anyways, I suppose that's all.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
This has
Get
been
outta
fun.
here.
Thanks, guys.